We did the award summit last month. I got a lot of pictures of myself smiling with a lot of you people. The awards are coming this month, so watch for an email from front desk or your manager or marketing. Could come from any three. We're going to keep you guessing so that you will check your emails. But you'll get emailed when your awards have arrived with instructions on where to pick them up. All right, Peak Agent Training. Who's been to Peak before? Rick has been to Peak. It is awesome. I have sat through it. I think it's something that makes Everest very special. It's taught by Russ Orchard. It's an excellent trainer. We're going to hear from him later. He's going to give us a sneak peek into Peak.
Right here.
We have Peak coming up. It's Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. Goes till about noon. The 10th is technology. The 15th is MoxieWorks. That's a new CRM that we'll be implementing. Has some really cool features. And Russ is working closely with marketing on creating some campaigns for you to use with your SOI. You want to be there for that. Relocation, company foundation, and business planning. All really great topics. If you haven't been, or if you have been, it doesn't matter if you're new or a vet, you should go. It's awesome training. Okay, the pantry packs. Who came in that door? Okay, yeah, it's out by lunch, good. There is a table with QR codes. They are looking for donations. This is the Century 21 Everest Foundation. We did this, was it last year, 2 years ago? You know, kids are hungry. Kids go home from school and have nothing to eat. There are more kids than we'd like to admit in Utah. This is not a speech for Ethiopia. The kids in Utah who really have nothing at home. And the foundation is organizing what they call pantry packs. Their packs of food include about 4 meals that they will donate to these kids. What we need is your money and your time. We need everything from you. There are QR codes. On your table, there is a sheet that looks a lot like this. You're going to have to share. Don't get greedy. You can all donate. It's okay. It has your office with a QR code. Take a picture of that QR code or follow the QR code to your office link. That's how you can donate. Then we're going to need your labor because we're going to take that money, 100% of that money, and buy all the stuff that's in one of these packs up here. And I was told for my efforts today I could keep this pack. But look, I'm going to donate it to the kids. So we've got, here are the dates where we're going to assemble the packs that are bought with your donations. In Centerville's the first one, March 10th. I've been told meet in the hallway. No, meet in the bathroom. Meet somewhere at Centerville. They're not looking at me. They're avoiding all eye contact. So embarrassing. Union Park on the 15th, 6th floor training room. To assemble there, and in Orem on the 22nd. I'm assuming it will also be in the training room.
6th floor, yes.
In Union Park on the 6th floor training room. What time? These are good questions. Fantastic questions. What time? 11 a.m. 11 a.m. Okay. Good question. Any other good questions? We're just so excited to be in the lights. 11 o'clock.
10 o'clock in Orem.
Oh, 10 o'clock in Orem, 11 o'clock everywhere else. Orem's always got to be a little different. It's okay. All right, so donate today so that they can get all the stuff. And then show up on those dates to help assemble. It is really cool, and the kids are really appreciative of it. Okay, so not ESS, Everest Coaching Prospecting School, March 21st through the 22nd, $395. Judy is somewhere. I saw fingers point that way.
No.
She's over here, she's on the front. Come see her if you want to sign up. It's really awesome. It's highly productive, totally worth your time to prospect and learn how to prospect. All right, 121. They say it's not a convention, but it sure feels like one. No, it's a great opportunity to go down with your colleagues throughout the entire Century 21 system system and attend learning sessions. They I think just issued the learning sessions. Danette and I were reading through them. There's some very interesting things on how to work in the current marketplace, all kinds of fun stuff. The cool part about this is Everest has claimed 3 top positions, and they will award those people. We've got Dave Parker's team, who took #1 large team, Tina Hare's team. Yeah, it's awesome. Tina Hare's team, #1 small team, and then Union Park, the #1 office. So Everest will be celebrated. Oh, and that's in Las Vegas. What time? I don't know. March 23rd through the 26th. It's Vegas. It's light, it's dark, I don't know. You're in the casino, it doesn't matter. All right, client appreciation events. We've got 2 client appreciation events coming up, one in Centerville on April 11th, one in Union Park on April 14th. See your manager or your front desk person for details, because I clearly do not have them. All right, Elevate. We've got Elevate coming back up. We had Climb. That was a really awesome event for those of you who attended. A lot of special guests. Elevate is more focused, and we'll be looking at how to stay competitive in a changing market. It's, again, an awesome event, lots of good things happening there, lots of great learning sessions. There's a QR code. Take your phone out, take a picture, sign up. Boy, there's a lot of QR codes today. Let's not put our phones away till I sit down. How about that? There's a lot of stuff going on. It will be downtown at the City Center Marriott, which is a great venue. Okay, let's see here. And the golf tournament. Who's played in the golf tournament? A few of you. I'm not a golfer, but I like swag, and that is a great place to get it. Oh, and the fees go to a good cause. Oh, there's all that stuff too. No, this is a really cool event. We've hosted it for many years now. The registration opens April 12th, that's next summit, and it closes May 12th unless it sells out sooner. And here's the secret, it will sell out sooner. And we've never had a problem selling this event out, so by April 13th, you're too late. So put on your running shoes, get ready to race to registration. Where will you be able to register? We'll have stuff. Guess what? We'll have a QR code at the next summit. Bring your phone. You're going to need it. Right?
There'll be emails and things.
Emails and things will be sent out.
We'll have stuff around the office.
Okay. We'll get it to you. And when I say we, I mean them. They'll get it to you. Okay. Super awesome event. And really, there is a lot of swag if you don't like to golf, but you like free stuff. Free stuff that costs money, right there. All right, we would like to welcome the following new agents. Maybe. Oh, there they are. If you are here, please stand, and we will give you a round of applause at the end. Rachel Poole, Ariana Brown, Chelsea Cooper, Abraham Milan, Chad Kiefer, Brady Palmer, Christine Anderson, Bowen Prestwich, Teresa Vivanco, and Trey Silver. You guys standing? Oh, nice. Welcome. Welcome to Everest. All right, if I can get George Q. Morris and Shari Wetworth to come up here for a minute. We have the Wetworth Award. So here's the criteria to win the Steve Wetworth Legacy Award. It's something we give out every year. It's in honor of Steve Wetworth, whose willingness to fund and help Everest in the very beginning was pivotal to the entire existence of this company. Quite frankly, we would not be here but for Shari and her husband, Steve. This is the award to get. If you are at Everest, it is open to anybody, absolutely anybody, who demonstrates selfless acts of contribution and typify the Everest culture of personal growth and development. And the winner for 2021 is Terry Taylor. Do you want to give it to her? Terry, she's right here. While she's walking up, I'm going to say some things about Terry from memory. She is one of those people that you know you're in an Everest office when you see Terry. She is omnipresent. She is always there. She's like Visa. She's everywhere you want to be. She is one of the most caring people. She's out of our Orem office. She has an enormous heart and takes great care of people with disabilities. She's got some in her family that she cares for. She's a huge contributor towards the Century 21 Everest Community Foundation. Volunteer. She is awesome and is everything we want you to be at Everest. Congratulations, Terry. I guess you got to take that. Well deserved. All right, I think that's the end of my part, so I hope they brought drinks. Do we know they get drinks?
Yeah, we've got water on the side.
Great news, we've got water on the side. For those of you who have snarfed down your sandwich and are now wondering what next, you can wash it down with water on either side. All right, today we've got a really cool lineup of speakers. We've got Jessica Terry Schneider. Yes. We've got Russ Orchard. And then there's that one guy, George, that likes to talk at these. So, no, we're really excited to hear from all of them today. It's you, Jessica.
Perfect. Thank you, Sam. So if you're having problems with that, will you click it? Perfect, thanks. So I first want to recognize Danette for being an incredible salesperson. She came into my office on Thursday or Friday and said to me, so Jess, would you prefer to speak at the summit on Tuesday or the Tuesday after Hawaii? Which works better for you? And I was like, okay, Tuesday works. She walks out of my office and I was like, I think I just got sold. So, good job, Danette. Very nice. So first, you guys, I've learned a lot over the years in real estate, and the number one thing I probably have learned is that there are a lot of different ways to sell real estate. And there's a lot of different ways to be successful at selling real estate. Today, I'm going to touch on basically more of a referral-based business, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't make sense to call cold leads. It doesn't make sense to not call for sell by owners and expireds. Basically, you need to do whatever it takes. At the same time, today, I'm going to focus solely on a referral-based business. So taking it back just a little bit for those of you who don't know me, I worked in the legal industry for about 8 years before I got into real estate. And I was studying for the LSAT, finishing up my bachelor's degree, and my plan was to go to law school. And I was sitting there going, gosh, you know what? I don't think I want to do this anymore. And I changed my mind and blindly, completely blindly went into real estate. And what I mean by blindly is, you guys, I did not know anybody in the real estate business. I did not know anybody in sales. And so I jumped into real estate, of course, not knowing anything about it. And I worked really, really hard. The one thing for sure in real estate is that everyone is going to struggle at some point. And I was definitely no exception to that. It was really, really hard, and I feel like it took me longer than most people to get started. And so I did all the open houses, I did door knocking, I did cold calls, I did for sale by owners, I did expireds, I did everything, and it just was taking a long time. I was single at the time, and we all have mortgage payments, right? Car payments, and all of those were coming due, and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? I can't make my bills. I can't make my mortgage payment, my car payment, and they're coming up really, really soon. At the time, I was dating my husband, Jared, and I'm sure everybody does this. When you're dating somebody and you go through the ATM and they pull out money and there's little receipts and it tells you what their balance is. Do you guys all peek at that? Say yes? Yes. If you say you don't, you're a liar. No, I'm just kidding. So I peeked at it, and it was really clear to me that he could definitely pay my bills for a month or two. So I thought, gosh, you know what? I think I'm gonna ask him to just cover my mortgage payment, my car payment, my utilities, just for the next couple months until these checks come in. So we were sitting down having a glass of wine one night, and I said, gosh, Jared, I've been working really, really hard at this real estate thing, and I have some checks coming in. They're just not here quite yet. Do you think you could cover my mortgage payment and my bills for, we were kind of serious, for just a couple months. And he kind of looked at me and paused for a minute. And anybody, which I know a lot of you know, or a handful of you know Jared, above all, is a businessman, guys. And he's also a lender. So he looked at me, Julie, and he said, Jess, let's not use my money. Let's actually refinance your house and pull money out of your house, and let's use your money. So that tells you how naive I was. I didn't know that was a thing. I did not know you could do a cash out refinance at the time. So we used my money, and I actually survived my first year of real estate, which was very exciting. So moving forward, I sold real estate for about 7 years, and I solely worked on the cold side of things. For sub-by owners, expireds. I used to prospect a lot with Dave Stocco. Is Alma in the room here? Alma, are you here? I don't see you. Alma and I prospected a lot. We were very, very consistent. And basically, I did have some success with that, and did that for about 7 years, and decided to have a baby, and had my little girl, and said, I'll be back in 6 weeks. So basically, I had my little girl. 2-3 years later, I decided, I had my little girl, and I thought, gosh, you know what? I don't think I want to go back to real estate. I think this whole stay-at-mom home thing seems pretty exciting. So I told my husband that, and I don't know if he was super excited. He was supportive, but I don't think he was very excited about it. And soon after that, I realized I needed to do something. So I started flipping homes, basically buying homes at auction, and did that for about 2 or 3 years. And during that 2 or 3 years, my husband got really, really sick during that time. And we were spending a ton of money flying to Mexico every 3 months to get treatments, going to Idaho twice a week to get treatments. And all of the treatments that we were doing were not covered by insurance. So it was all out of pocket. So in short, we were hemorrhaging on medical bills that were not covered by insurance. So my husband came home one day, and I could just see it in his eyes that he could not do it anymore, that he needed to start working from home. So I basically decided to get back into real estate. It was about 7 or 8 years ago I decided to jump back into real estate. And keep in mind, before I was doing solely cold business. So when I stopped doing real estate, you guys, my business stopped. My phone didn't ring. So I was out of business. And so I jumped back into real estate, and my number one goal was to work smarter and to create a referral-based business. That was my number one focus 8 years ago. You guys, last year, I should say, 97% of my business was referral-based. So that is very exciting. And I worked really, really hard to do that. So you guys, let's talk about it. Why should we do a referral-based business? Just give me 1 or 2 words. If you are not working your SOI, give me a reason maybe why you're not. Somebody. If I have to stand up here, you guys have to give me. Scary? Why?
I call their SOI thinking they're bugging them. They're feeling more like an Amway salesman, not focused on Amway salesman.
Yeah.
Anyway, those people just don't like to bug those in their family or their friends.
We don't want to seem desperate.
We don't want to seem desperate, sure.
What's another reason? Disorganized? We just don't have a system to do it? Perfect, I like that, Ed. What else? Give me another reason.
Probably don't know what to say.
We don't know what to say? Okay, you guys, yes.
What about pride?
Sorry, what?
Pride.
Pride, yes. This all boils a lot down to, I guess, organization, ego, all of those things. You guys, that's the number one reason I didn't call my SOI 2. Keep in mind, they already respect you, they trust you, they like you. Who here would like people to follow their lead a little bit more in the buyer's market right now, right? I would. Do you think if they respected you, they might follow your lead a little bit more? You wouldn't have to write 20 offers, you could maybe write 2 or 3. Also, they will respect your commission. You guys, your SOI will, if they respect and trust and like you, they know you work hard, they will respect your commission. Also, how do we work our SOI? One is we take great care of people. And I know you guys are probably like, well, of course, we all take great care of people. So are you treating your clients like you would want your mom to be treated if they were buying a house? Are you treating them maybe like how you would want your daughter or your son when they first bought a house? So just really, truly taking care of people and building and deepening those relationships. Of course, having a service team, you guys, because we're too busy, obviously, during the transaction showing homes, listing homes, having a service team. And I understand that if you're a single agent right now, you may not be able to be a service team. You know, I was my service team for a little while until I could actually hire a service team in order to wow your clients. Create a gifting program for your clients. That's another way to create and deepen relationships. So create an all about you form. When you first meet a client, are you really getting to know them? If they like coffee, what kind of coffee do they like? Are they drinkers? Are they not drinkers? Do they have kids? Do they have pets? What are their passions? So that when you are gifting them, when you create a gifting program for them, it actually is something that they want to receive. So just making sure that you know and understand your clients. Creating a referral program. For me, if Marcy, let's say, comes into my office, oh, so-and-so just sent us a referral, what do you want to do? I don't want to make that decision. So if I have a system for it, if they send us one referral, this is what they get. If they send a second referral, this is what they get. Create a referral program so everything is systematized. Because I think if we make it easy, we will implement it. If we overcomplicate things, we will not implement them. So just really making sure that we create a system for everything that we do. Create a wow checklist. So we all have checklists, correct, for if a buyer goes under contract or right when you take a buyer broker. Weave in your wow checklist for them. So for example, if you take a buyer broker, are you sending them a gift, letting them know that you're excited to be working with them, versus just setting them up on a hot sheet? So just doing those extra things and weaving it into your current checklist. Of course, this isn't obvious, but do what's right regardless of the outcome, which the outcome is the income. So I had a client call me recently, and she was very eager to write an offer on a lot. And I could tell there was a disconnect between her and her husband. I could just feel it. And I said, I am more than happy to write an offer on this lot, but we need to meet for a minute. So they came in, her and her husband, and we sat down and we started talking. And as I asked a lot of questions like we're taught to do here, share with me what's important to you, really digging, I found out that they were in a big financial bind. They couldn't even make their mortgage payment. And at the same time, she was really insecure about retirement. So she was wanting to build retirement as well. So she wanted to purchase a lot, hold it for 5 years for retirement. Does that make any sense? If you have the money, yes, maybe that makes sense. Is anybody subsidizing that lot? No. Is it creating passive income? No. Is she gonna have an extra payment and she can't even make her mortgage payment right now? That doesn't make sense. So she asked me, does this make sense? No, it makes no financial sense for you to purchase this lot. If you want it, I'll help you get it, but if you're asking me if it makes financial sense, it does not make financial sense. And they appreciated that, so they decided not to purchase that lot. They called back after and decided to sell one of their rental properties. So you guys doing the right thing, really digging and doing what's best for them is going to be a win-win in the end. They're going to trust you if you do the right thing. Of course, don't get attached to this outcome, which again is the income. And then again, following a system. In just a minute, I'm gonna put up a pyramid of how I organize my database, just to give you an idea. But following that system, so every Monday, I'm calling on my top 25, top 50 people. On Tuesday, I do update calls to clients. So keep in mind, my team is the one that's talking to my clients majority of the time once we go under contract, handling any issues. So my goal on Tuesday is basically not to be in the file. My goal is to be on green time. So my goal when I call them is to ask for referrals, current client referrals. That is my goal when I'm calling the client. I'm hoping my team is taking care of any of the issues on Tuesday. So Tuesday update calls should be fun and not dealing with issues. Wednesday is lead follow-up. Thursdays you're calling through your database, your A through Z. Go through A, go through B, go through C, how many ever hours you prospect a day, and then on Fridays it's business calls, so that you have a system in order to work your database. So I am going to show you a pyramid right here, just to give you guys an idea of how I organize it. So my top 25, those are the people that I'm in deep relationship with. You guys, that's my mom, my dad, my nephew, my best friends. Those are the people. I can only be in deep relationship with so many people. So of course, I'm going to do different things for my top 25 than I am my top 50. Same thing with my top 25 versus my top 500. So then I have a top 50. I'm in a strong relationship with them, but not as strong as my top 25. And then I have my database of 500. My full database is probably, I don't even know, probably 750-ish. My main focus is 500 people. And then again, I do extra care to top 25 and my top 50 because I can't be in deep, deep relationship with everyone. This, one of my last slides right here is just to show you an idea of what I do with my top 25. So just to give you an example, with a top 25, I'm probably going to go to dinner, or I just had like a little birthday bash for all my friends that were in my first quarter. This organizes my personal life too. I mean, if I probably wasn't even in real estate, I would probably use this system at least for my top 25 people. So I make sure that I do a barbecue or a dinner or something with them at least monthly. I'm probably seeing my really good friends at least a couple times a month. So just organizing your database to where if it's their birthday, something different happens with my top 25 versus my top 50 versus my top 500 versus my entire database. So this will give you guys just an idea of how to organize it. Again, my goal really is for you guys to go deeper with your relationships and just create a system to do it. So I hope this was helpful. I'm also really quick going to just touch on a subdivisions that we have coming up with Greenhaven Homes. This is a really good client of mine that I've been working with for, gosh, about 6 years. Scarlet Ridge and Eagle Mountain, we have 164 acres, and they are half acre, 3/4 acre, and full acres that are going to be released. And probably in the next 2 to 4 weeks, we'll send out our first release. We also have in Riverton another 30 lots that is going to be low maintenance living, basically gated community. And then we have some estate lots in Harriman, about 15 of them, a different subdivision, that will be coming out in about 60 days probably. So you guys, I hope you got something from this, and I hope you have a great, successful 2022.
All right, you guys hear me okay? Yeah. Awesome, cool. So first, let's give Jessica one more round of applause. That was awesome. I don't know if Danette assigned you that topic or you chose it.
I was assigned it.
Oh, okay, because apparently I was assigned the same topic. As she was up here, I'm like, she's giving everything I was going to say, so thanks for being here. I'm done. No, but hey, here's what I do want to start with on this, is as Jessica was talking about being a new agent, I want to just echo some of the things that she said, because when she first started, she was in the training program that I was running at Coldwell Banker. And so she and I would sit down and do like a coaching kind of session every Monday. And I asked her one day if she remembers this conversation. She said she didn't. But there was one Monday that we were sitting there, and there was an agent sitting next to her that would always kind of have excuses or whatever. Like, he always had a reason why he couldn't do things. And after that day, Jessica and I were talking once, and she said that he had said to her, "You and I are a lot alike." And that she said, "Wait a minute, no, I don't want to be perceived as that." And then it was interesting because everything she just shared about when her business took off was from that conversation. And I think the reason that conversation stuck out so much to me was because I saw how quickly she got things up and running. So anyway, I love Jessica, and thank you for all your words. It was awesome. Okay, other thing before I get going is also just I want to recognize all the women in the room, and just especially on today. I told my wife before I left the house, I said, hey, it's International Women's Day, so like have a great International Women's Day. And my wife's response was, well, when's International Men's Day? And I said, I think it's the other 364 days of the year. So, so I hope she had a great day. All right, so here's what I want to talk about. So I'm going to talk about SOI 2, but before I do that, by a show of hands, how many of you have ever driven into your neighborhood, or you've driven by a friend's house, and when you drove by, you saw this? Some other agent's sign in front of their house. I know I have, okay? So we're going to talk about SOI and how to not have that happen. Now, but before we get into that, the next thing I wanted to ask you is, how many of you have ever been worried about calling? You've been scared, so go to the next one. Here we go. You've been scared to pick up the phone and to call a past client because something went haywire during the transaction, and you felt like at the end of the deal when it closed, you were concerned or worried they hate you, and so you didn't ever call me. And anybody else besides me ever done that? All right, cool. So we're going to talk about some ideas and ways to get around some of these things and how to not have that happen. Now, before I do that, though, I want to show you, NAR does a survey every year of home buyers and sellers. And they ask the buyers and sellers a number of questions in this survey. What you're looking at here is the 2021. So this came out in November. And one of the questions that they ask the buyers and sellers is, how did you choose the agent that you were going to list your home with? Now, as you look at this, the very top of a way that a seller chooses who they're going to list their home with is 39% of the time they are either referred by or they are a friend, neighbor, or relative. And then notice, next is 29% of the time, it's going to be that they used the agent previously. And then after that, I love what Jessica said, because I want to reinforce the same thing, is I'm not saying don't do for sale by owners, expired, just listed, just sold. I'm not saying don't do that either. But notice on here, after you get from referred by as a friend, neighbor, or relative, use the agent previously, the next highest way to get a listing is other. The third best way to get listings is other. Now, I wish I knew what that was, because we should do it, because 13% of the time, I mean, it's better than everything else outside of that. But I don't know what it is. So as a result of that, we got to work them, right? Okay, next. So let's look at buyers. Which, by the way, so those two added together, which is what I would constitute your SOI, is 68%. So 2/3 of the time, the way somebody's going to choose who they're going to list their home with is friend, neighbor, or relative, or they use the agent in the past. What about the buyer? On the buyer side, you'll notice 47% of the time, it again is coming as a referred buyer is a friend, neighbor, or relative. 13% is used the agent previously. My favorite thing on this one, for whatever reason, is if you look under the first-time home buyers section, it shows 2% of the time a first-time home buyer used the agent previously. Yeah, I'm glad some of you get the joke, because I'm always like, how could you be a first-time home buyer and use the agent previously? And usually people will say, well, they probably sold a home. And I'm like, well, if they owned a home all ready to sell, like, anyway. So, but here's the point. Again, you go to this, 60% of the time, the way that a person is going to choose who they're going to use as the agent is either use the agent previously, or it's a friend, neighbor, relative, SOI, right? Okay, so here's what I want to go into and talk about next. So the next piece of this is keep in mind that, go ahead, people are not sitting there staring at their phone waiting for you to call. They're not sitting there expecting that you're going to call them, meaning that your friends, neighbors, relatives are not actually expecting that you're going to call them about real estate. And the next piece of this, too, that I want to point out and help you make sure you remember is they actually don't even know you want or need their help. They don't recognize that. In fact, what they think is that you show up to the office or one of the managers just says, Terry, since we're recognizing her for her award, Jason says, Terry, here's a bunch of houses to go list. That's how your SOI thinks this business works. They don't realize you need their help. They don't realize you want their help. So you have to be sure to pick up the phone and call them and let them know, I can use your help, okay? So next then. The next thing that and Jessica already brought this up, so I'm not going to say a whole lot of it, but we're worried that we're bugging them. Rick started giving my talk too. I almost said, Rick, stop. So, but we're worried that that's what they're going to do when we call them up, that they're like, oh, really, quit bugging me. Or, because we live in Utah, you're worried that they think you're calling them to sign them up for a multi-level marketing campaign that you only cost you $50 a month, right? So that's what our concern usually is. We're worried we're going to be bothering them, okay? Right, all right, next. So here's what we need to do. If you're concerned about that, you're worried about contacting your SOI, call and just ask for permission, just like this little mouse is doing. Ask him, please, so we don't want to be necessarily like that. But we want to call. If you will just call and talk to them. Remember I started this whole thing by saying, who has pulled into their neighborhood and seen another agent sign in front of your friend's house that you thought was going to list their house with you? Well, the way you deal with that is call. Just call and ask them, let them know. Here's the best thing that you can do. We're just coming out of, or somewhat out of, I guess, I don't know, COVID. Great thing to do would be to call and say, I realized over the past 2 years, I want my business to be primarily referral dependent. And as a result of that, I'm calling to find out from you if you had a real estate need, or if you knew of somebody that was thinking about buying or selling, who would you refer them to? And hopefully the answer you're going to get is, well, you, of course, I would refer them to you. In which case, now you can know, yes, you've got permission now to contact them. They're going to be okay with it. But what if they say no? What if you call them up and said, Judy, if you were thinking about buying or selling your house, who would you call? And what if she said, well, I would call Jonathan Aubrey over here. At least now I know that she's not planning to list the home with me, so that if I pull into the neighborhood and I notice a sign in front of Judy's house, I shouldn't be surprised because I've found out up front. Wouldn't you rather know before that sign shows up Who would rather know before? Yeah, me too. I would much rather know. So call and just ask for permission. In the process of calling and asking for permission, you're going to find out. Here's the other thing you're going to find out. People are more than willing to help. They want to do that, and they want to help you out. All right, so next thing. So that's one of the first key things if you have not done. Make sure that you go through and call the people in your phone and just start contacting them and asking them if they would be willing to refer to you. Number 2 is create value. You got to provide something of value. So as you are contacting them, think about ways that you can create value for them. Now, I'm going to give you 2 different ideas that I have seen, that if you'll do this, it takes away the worry that you're bothering them, that you're calling them up and that they're going to not want you to be calling. So the first one was this, and I had another agent share this with me. So this wasn't my experience, but it was an agent that I had trained. And what she did is she had called up, and in the process of talking to her SOI, she said, "Is there anything that I can help you with?" And this person in her sphere of influence said, "Well, not unless you know," and then she named a specific type of a specialist, a medical specialist, I don't even remember what it was. And she said that they had just found out that their daughter had some issue and that she needed to go and see this specialist. But the problem was, they were months until they would be able to get into this appointment. And so the agent said, "Well, you know what, let me take that back to my database. Let me go to my database and see if anybody knows or has a connection that would allow you to be able to get into this specialist sooner." So they sent out an email to all of the people in their database and said, "Does anyone happen to know this specific type of a specialist?" And somebody responded back and said, "Yes. My brother does exactly that, but he's located in Pittsburgh. Would they be willing to fly out to Pittsburgh to meet with him?" And the agent said, "I don't know, let me find out." Called up the person in their database, said, "Hey, would you be willing to fly out to Pittsburgh in order to get this taken care of sooner?" And the person said, "Yeah, absolutely. You get the appointment, we will be there." Now, let me ask you this. Do you think that agent had to ever worry about calling that person again and saying, "Who do you know that might be thinking about buying or selling real estate?" Do you think that person would ever call anybody else when it was time to sell their house? See, so if we can find ways of creating value with our sphere of influence, we don't have to be worried about making that phone call because they're going to look forward to you calling. Let me give you one other idea of ways that you can connect and work your database to have you not be worried about calling, okay? So this one is one that I did. I had a guy that would come and spray my lawn for weeds. And my neighbors were always saying, "How come you never have any weeds in your yard?" And I would always say, "Well, because I have this guy come and spray my weeds." And so one day I had this thought of, I'm going to recommend him to all of the people in my database. So I called him up, and his name was Bill. And I said, "Hey, Bill, you do such a great job with my lawn. It's always green. I never have any weeds. I want to refer you to all the people in my database. What kind of a deal would you be willing to give them if they use your services?" And he said, "I'll do their first spraying for free." So I said, "Would you be willing to create a coupon for me? Or if you're okay with it, I'll create the coupon, and then I'm going to mail it out to all of these people recommending your services." So I sent, and since Sam's in the house, I made sure to say, I can't guarantee their services so we wouldn't get sued, but I sent out a letter that just said, "Hey, can't guarantee this guy's services, but my lawn looks great if you're interested in looking for it." So here's the other idea for you. Contact these people in your sphere of influence. Find out what they do. What is their profession? Do they have a business? Do they have some type of a side job or whatever? Find out what it is they do, and then ask them, "Could I refer you to all of the other people, however many people that are in your database? Would you be okay with me doing that?" Find out what kind of a discount or whatever, something that they would do to give to these people, so that, again, you are then providing value as you send it out. All right, how am I doing on time, Danette? It's yellow? Uh-oh, I better pick up the pace. All right, go next. All right, so here's the thing. So I'm going to actually go really pretty quick on this because it's very similar to what Jessica said, but I want to talk about the ABCs of working your sphere of influence. So part of what you want to do, and really very similar to how Jessica said it, is prioritize the people and have them in your A's, B's, and C's, and then there's really a D category as well, and we'll talk about. So go ahead. So on A, the people who are going to be the A clients in your database are the people who are going to be really adamant. It's the top 25 Jessica was talking about, but this is the people who will go out and refer you, and they're going to become like your little sales force that's out there promoting you. So I had the lady that would cut my hair. My best friend growing up, his name was Ed. His wife was the one who I would go to get my hair cut. And they lived in townhouses out in West Valley. I would drive out there to get my hair cut, and every time I would get there, she also cut all of the other ladies' hair that was in this townhouse community. And so she knew everything that was going on in this community. So when I would go out there to get my hair cut, every time she would say, okay, here's the people you need to call. This person's husband just got a new job, and they need to sell because they're moving to Chicago, and this family's getting divorced. Like, she knew everything, and every time I showed up, she had names for me of people to call. So that's going to be the people in your A list, the people who are going to go out and refer you to people, okay? Next would be the B group. B is going to be people who they're going to call you. Like, even if you never called them once on the phone, they're probably going to call you up and say, hey, come list my house, or we want to go buy a house. Okay, so that's going to be another smaller group of people that should be in your database. And then the C list of people is going to be the people who will use you or will refer you to people provided you make the phone call. Now here's the thing. And very similar to what Jessica showed, this group on hers was 500 people. This is going to be the largest segment of your database. The largest segment of your database consists of people who will use you if you make the phone call. If you don't make the phone call, they're not going to use you. And then the D for me is the people you should probably just get rid of. Now, how do you know who you should get rid of? Is this. If that's the face you make when their name shows up in whatever your database is that you're using, when it shows up that you need to make the phone call to this person and you make that face, you probably should, they're D. Just get rid of them, purge them, get them out. Or if you drive by and you see another agent's for sale sign out front, you probably should get rid of them as well, right? Okay, so here's the thing. Let me see, where am I at here? I got what?
I got 5 minutes.
Oh, I thought the yellow was a 5 minute.
It's really a 7.
Oh, okay. All right, well, I learned a long time ago that when you have somebody more important than you speaking afterwards, you end early, so I will. All right, here's the thing. Early on, keep this in mind. As you're calling your database, the shelf life of your phone call is not going to last very long. And where I learned this was I was calling through my database, and I had called this guy and said, do you know of any, is there anything I can do for you? I went through all that, but then I said, do you know of anybody thinking of buying or selling? And he said, no, I don't know anybody. I said, oh, okay. Hung up the phone, and the next day he called me and said, hey, I don't know what I was thinking, but I have known of a guy at work who's been thinking about selling his house. We've been talking about it for months and months and months. And after your call yesterday, when I got to work the next day, today, he said, we were at lunch and the guy was like, yeah, we really got to figure out what we're going to do about buying a house. And so I told him he needs to call you. But here's what I learned. As I was working my database, early on, so for you newer agents that have not, or even if you're seasoned, but if you have not been working your database, expect that the first few times you call, the shelf life of that phone call is going to last about 5 minutes. Meaning, they could go to dinner that night with some friends, and the friends would say, we want to sell our house, and they're not even going to think about you. But the more you repeat those phone calls and continue to do it over and over and over again, the longer they're going to remember that you're an agent. And eventually you'll get it to the point that even if you didn't call them for a long, long time, they would still remember. But it's going to take the repetition of calling over and over and over again. All right. Next, here's the next piece. If you're not calling them, someone else is. And who do you think is going to get the business when it's time for them to buy or sell if you're not calling and someone else is? So just keep that in mind. No different than how it works in terms of internet leads, where people sign up on multiple sites. The same concept happens within your database. I guarantee you every person in your database knows multiples of agents. And if you're not calling, Jessica will be, right? She's going to get them. So make sure that you're calling those people. All right, last piece of this. Here's what I want you to do. Just kind of imagine for a minute, how would your business change if you really took this serious? If you're not. Now, if you are, then great. But if you're not, if you decided today, I'm going to start working my sphere of influence, what would that do for your real estate career? What would that allow you to do in your life? What vacations, what trips, what things would you be able to do or to provide for your family that you're not able to because you're not working your database? And I just want to tie this back one last time to that NAR study. The majority of the time, the way people are going to choose is by friends, neighbors, or relatives, or a referral. So if you're not doing it, commit today, make the decision today, and commit that you're going to start today in working your sphere of influence. And here's the thing, I guess that I'll just wrap with this. We have seen rapid home price increases in Salt Lake. We're starting to see interest rates going up. And I believe the number of transactions that take place in our market are going to be fewer than they have been for a short time. We're going to see fewer numbers of transactions taking place, which we've already started to see. So as a result of that, we have already seen, you guys are fully aware how low the inventory is. So the listings are not as plentiful out there. And if you want to get them, make sure you're contacting and working your sphere of influence, because if you will do that, you are going to see your business increase not only in price range, but transactions, and also the business should get easier for you. So who's going to call 3 to 5 people in their SOI every day? Give me a show of hands. Who will commit? All right, I'm going to hold you to it. Thanks. I appreciate your time. George.
All right. All right, how's everybody doing? Oh my gosh, that just is painful. Just so you know. Stand up. You're killing me. All right, Josh, you're in charge back over that side. Dave, you're in charge over there. Let's see here. Who's in charge? Any volunteers back there? I can't even see anybody. All right. Who's back there? All right. Lisa, you back there? Leah? All right, just checking. All right, how you guys doing? I said, how are you doing? All right, give a high five to a few people around you. All right, here we go. So just out of curiosity, high five right here. Out of curiosity, how many of you are here for the first time to a summit? All right, welcome. Now have a seat. It's going to get really weird from this point forward, I promise. All right. So I am right off the throes of a surgical center. About 5 days ago, I had hernia surgery. So please don't come up and tackle me like some of you like to do, who are overly strong, like Rick Bentley and others, because I might just collapse to the ground. In fact, Dave Parker and I were just talking about that. But and then about 2 weeks before that, I had back surgery. And then my ever lovely and amazing Jennifer is not sitting next to me today because she also had just had back surgery, and she had a full-blown fusion, and so we're getting ready for the next 50 years. That's the deal. I just want you to know that. So we're getting in our prime. That's what I keep telling myself, and so we're having a good time. But with that, I just want to I want to say thank you for all of you being here. And number 2 is I want to wish Miss Cheryl Knowlton, by the way, if you could stand up, please. It is her birthday today. Happy birthday. And it's so fun to see some of the things that are happening with Cheryl and things we're doing, of course, with Inspiro, things that are happening with North Star, of course, the brokerage. You guys are doing such extraordinary things, and it's so fun to see what's happening. Well, because I've been sitting flat on my back, no pun intended with the back surgery, but I have been, I've had a lot of time to reflect on what I might just talk about today. In fact, I would say I have never been so prepared in the history of probably my career for ever speaking to you, ever. So with that, buckle up, because here we go. And I want to say thank you. Where's Russ? Russ, thank you very, very much. I think the greatest asset that we may build, and Jessica, thank you so very much. The greatest asset you're probably ever going to build in this business is going to be your sphere of influence. I hope that you're paying really, really close attention to it. So 2 years ago, this July, a year ago, this July, we were on the shores of Flaming Gorge, and it was a great time. We were having a wonderful time, and it was the first time that we had taken our little puppy. Now, those of you who follow me on Instagram, I know I have an obsession with my dog, so I apologize to all of you. But then some of you don't even have any interest in what I have to say. You're only interested in watching my dog, which is really weird. And yes, I guess I had a fake account that just went out. I have now hit the big time to where people think I'm that big of an influencer that they want to duplicate my processes and try to get involved in every single scheme from crypto to you name it. But if we talk about crypto, we'll talk about it face to face, just so you know, or anything you want to talk about. But with that being said, we're on the boat, and we cannot get Cooper, who's a little puppy, off of the shore. And I've been trying for like 2 straight days to get him to swim in the water, and he won't swim in the water. Now, mind you, he's a golden retriever. He should love the water. He should be jumping through the water, but he hadn't been around a lot of water. So he was just absolutely petrified of the water. And as I got in the boat and everybody was in the boat, I told Ethan, I said, Ethan, just push the boat off. And so we pushed the boat off, and he is sitting on the shore. And he starts running back and forth, barking, whining, barking, and barking. Of course, then by that time, there was enough barking that Jennifer decided she was going to start whining and barking and telling me that it's animal cruelty. How can you leave him there? How can you force him to swim in the water? And so we just sat in the water, and finally he jumped in the water. And if you know anything about golden retrievers, they have these really cool web feet. And so he started swimming through the water, and of course got on the boat. Of course, I got the stink eye from Jennifer telling me how evil and wrong it was that I helped him live his dream of living and breathing and bathing in the water. But why I'm telling you that story is it's a lot like life. And here's my observation with so many of us, is that if you could, just write this down for me. Write this down. Am I, if you take your phone out, I don't care, write it down. Just ask yourself this question, because it's a really important one. Am I living my life? Now you say, why am I telling you this story about Cooper? Because what I realize is this, am I living? Because Cooper was living his life, even though you may say, well, he's just a little puppy. Yep, but he was living his life in the shape of his fear. And that's the key here. He was only willing to live his life. So here's the question again, so keep writing, I'm all over the place here. But am I living my life in the shape of my fear, or am I living it in the shape of my dream or my desire? Now here's the thing that's interesting. For every single one of us, every day, you are faced with decisions of living in the shape of your fear, what you are scared of, and living your life. And when we talk about real estate, you want to talk about people getting scared, this is the business to get in. Because it's crazy how fearful we will get. Right? The topics to Russ and to Jess, talking about your sphere of influence. But what are you afraid of? And is your life in the shape of your fear? Right, the shape of maybe relationships that you shouldn't be in, friendships you stay in that you shouldn't have, things that you're doing that you shouldn't be doing, but you keep doing it because you're scared of the opposite. But the reality is those who are free in their lives, those who live an extraordinary life, seem to be the ones who stop living their life in the shape of what they're scared of, and they start living their life in the shape of what they want and what they desire. And so when I saw Cooper seriously swimming through the water, I said to myself, because no one else was really interested, because they thought it was, again, animal abuse at this point, but I said to myself, there you go. And I remember saying to myself, the shape of his desire. And what he desired was to be in the boat with me, with our family, more than sitting on the shores and looking on. But boy, he was safe living in the shape of his fear. So ask yourself for a minute, what are you scared of in this business? What do you choose not to do? I don't care whether, I've got so many great people in here, so excited, like we got Billy Beach, who just recently joined the company. I'm so excited to have him here with Inspiro. You got so many great people who are here, and so many people who make a tremendous amount of money, who don't have to be here. What Jessica didn't say, by the way, in her most darkest moments, she was barely making $100,000 a year at best. And yet I watched like last year where she made nearly $700,000. And you have to ask yourself, wait a second here. But if you live in the shape of your dream, that's what's possible. If you start living your life in the shape of what you fear, then that's all you get, what you're afraid of. So if you walk through this business being afraid of prospecting, being afraid of knocking doors, being afraid of talking to certain types of clients, whether it's internet leads to for sale by owners, to door knocking, to you name it. But if you're living your life right now in the shape of what you are so scared of, I can promise you, you're not going to get what you want. But there's a requirement to getting what you want. And I still remember so many years ago, and I say many years ago, I remember sitting in my room, my mother who had raised me, her name was Lynn Jensen. And Lynn, there she was talking to my grandfather. My grandfather who raised me, or who was part of my life, was a huge impact to me. In fact, if you're a fan of like Nelson's Custard Yogurt on Highland Drive, or El Chihuahua, or where all those different buildings that are over there, my grandfather built every single one of them. Like where Lofgren's Furniture is, all of those, I remember as a kid sweeping these floors because my grandfather built them. Well, I remember being at my house with my mother, and he came into the home. And he was like he was my beacon of, he was just this solid person in my life that I could look to, that I knew was going to be consistent in who he was. Well, I can remember as I sat in my room as a lazy 11 or 12, 13-year-old, somewhere in that age, and I remember it was during the fall, and all these leaves were outside. And he walked in, and he saw all the leaves in the backyard of my mother's home. And I still never forget him saying these words. He said, "Damn it, Lynn, your son's not worth anything." And he was talking and speaking about the fact that the leaves were on the ground. Well, when he left that night, or that afternoon, I stayed through the night. I still remember it being pitch black as I was packing bag after bag after bag. And what I learned in that moment is that you're not going to get almost anything out of this business if you aren't willing to work really hard. Now, you can work hard on your sphere, you can work hard in your business in so many different ways, but I can promise you that if you are living your life right now based on what you fear, and you are not working hard, it is unlikely that you're going to win a lot in this business. Then you take the other component, which is every great salesperson, if you want to write this down, write this down, my job is to get people to focus on the right things. That's your job with a client. Just like Jessica's story with the lot that she was talking about, and getting her client to focus on the right stuff. Great leaders get people to focus on the right things. So the challenge is that if right now your focus points are focusing on what rates are doing, what the inventory is doing, what other agents are doing, what the market's doing, what the economy's doing, what Biden's doing, what Trump is doing, what Ukraine is doing. You say, wait, I gotta know about all these things. Do you really need to know all of it? Because here's my observation. is that every single one of us that continue to focus on the things that don't change our lives, nothing changes. And your job is to focus on the right things that gets the job done. It means following up with your leads. It means making sure you get your updates. It means that you make sure you take the time to talk to people. It means that you call your sphere. And even if you're scared, you still call. Because that's what great leadership does. That's what great leaders in the industry. That's why it's the greatest gathering of real estate professionals the world has ever seen, because you know what you're supposed to focus on. But if you're living a life focused on everything outside of you, if you're living a life where you're completely living in your fear, and if you're living a life where you're just waiting for things to happen because you choose to not work hard, and then you pipe off with these type of comments, I don't know what the market's going to do. Gosh, I hope it's going to be good. And all of a sudden, your strategy for business becomes the absolute worst strategy known to mankind in business. I hope. In the words of the late Jack Welch, some of you know who he was, one of the greatest CEOs of our last 100 years of GE, who said, hope is not a strategy for business. I hope the home sells is ridiculous. I hope I find the home is ridiculous. I hope I set an appointment is ridiculous. Because it is not a strategy. It is hope. And the reality is that you don't have to hope in this business if you will focus on the right things, if you will work your tail off, and if you will live your life in the shape of what you ultimately desire. You will win every single day in this business. So we're shifting. The market has shifted. Yes, is it necessarily going up or down? I don't know. Remains to be seen. So they say it's going to be up 16%. But the reality is that isn't the real issue, whether prices go up or down for you as a real estate agent. What matters is whether inventory is moving or not moving, whether people are buying or selling or not selling. It's not about the cost of the home that's an issue. It's about the volume of it is your issue in the sense of the number of sales. So you have to get in the way of that. And if you don't get in the way of that, you're going to have the biggest challenges that are going to come forward in this marketplace. So ask yourself again, what are you scared of? If I really followed you around all day, if I followed you from start to finish, if I woke up and was right by your bedside, I was like, okay, hey, I'm just here to observe. Go ahead, go ahead. Do your thing. If I followed you through the day, would I find someone that I would go, whoa, I cannot believe their work ethic. I cannot believe the level of focus. I cannot believe that no matter what they're scared of, man, they just step right through it and it's no big deal. Who would show up? If I followed you around all day, what would happen? Would I be excited? Hey, even worse yet, what if your clients followed you around all day? Would they be really excited about what you're doing all day? Would they be like, oh, I'm so excited I have this person selling my house? I mean, look at it. They woke up at 10. They, stretched. They want to be limber. Got to the gym with all the workout moms at noon, right? And then, they made their way to the office and followed up on a few leads and then they went to lunch. Don't forget that. And then they broke off and stopped working really early in the day. People are paying you some of the largest margins in the industry of business to sell their houses. The question really, ask yourself, are you a hard worker? Can you really realize within yourself that someone would say, man, what a hard worker. Look how dedicated they are. Look at the hours they put in. Stop the nonsense at some level. Like, I really appreciate what Jess said about working smarter, meaning working with your sphere. But let's not be confused of the stupidity of people who say that and then say, well, what that means is so I don't have to work hard. When did working hard not become such an idolization? When did working hard become something to push away so hard from? The people I know work the hardest. I look at people like the Austins, the Daves, the Jessicas, and others. I look at people like a Rick Bentley, a Ruby, and others who show up at the crack of dawn working hard. And then some of you want all that they have and they've achieved and they accomplished or who they've become, but then you're not willing to pay the same price. You're thinking that it can come to you so easily. You think that it should just happen magically. You'll look at things like that have been created and think, well, it's just, look how lucky they are. No, they're not just lucky. They have paid a price that is so deep because they knew that in the darkest moments they still would persevere. And that is what great leadership is. That's, to me, still why it's the greatest gathering of real estate professionals, because of the price that you're willing to pay and the difference that you're willing to make. So I go back to, again, work hard, focus on the right things, and then ensure the fact that as you're moving through your life, ask yourself, man, is this the shape of my fear? Am I just living my life based on everything I'm scared of? Or am I living my life based on what I desire, what I dream of, what I want to have? And when you start living your life from that type of basis, everything changes, and you start living a life that's based on your dreams. And that's a very unique life and a very rare one in today's world. I remember years ago, this is nearly a decade ago, I was standing at the feet of a hospital bed. I was with Rob Oakey. I was with John Syatt, and some of you may remember this fine individual, this amazing man. And I remember standing there, and I was thinking about this as I was going into surgeries these last few weeks, and I was thinking, I wonder if this might be my last moment. And so I started reflecting on this story. And I remember the story. How many of you remember Jeff Lighton? There's a few of you here who will remember him. John, of course, you remember him, Steph. And I remember Jeff Lighton. I was standing there at his hospital bed, and myself, John Syatt, and Rob Oakey, we stood there, and I had just earlier in the week, I had just given a coaching session with him, and then I found him 3 or 4 days later in the hospital. I still remember in the coaching session, he said, my wife thinks my skin looks a little bit yellow, so I think I'm going to go into the hospital. And I said, okay. He goes, yeah, but I don't go in for like 2 more days or 3 more days, whatever it was. Well, I remember he went in. He was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And on that moment, in that pancreatic cancer diagnosis, within 24 hours later, he was actually having surgery. So that morning, he had surgery. That evening, myself, John, and Rob were standing at his bedside. And I still will never forget the question I asked, but more importantly, I will remember the answer that he gave. And I still remember saying, hey, Jeff, what would you tell these young whippersnappers, these young guys who are trying to make their mark in the world? And he had just come from being a high-level executive at Johnson & Johnson, and he was selling real estate. It was his great love, but one of the most teachable men that I'd ever met. I would sit there as this young 35-year-old, and he would just stand there, sit there, and would listen to every crazy thing I had to talk about and would take it in because he was so conditioned to learning. It was who he was. And so I said, hey, what would you tell me? Some of you have heard me say this before, but it is a great reminder. He said, I would do this, George. I would have learned a lot more. He said, I would have laughed a lot more, and I would have loved a lot more. And he said, if I get a chance to get out of this hospital, those are the 3 things I'm going to do a lot more of. I want to echo to you that your life is an absolute gift. And it doesn't take just a surgery to see that. It doesn't necessarily even take for you to personally have a near-death experience. Some of you have had them, some of you haven't. But every one of us has experienced loss. And whether that's someone who's close to you or from afar, you've seen how fragile and how quick life can change. In the midst of that change, what I would challenge you with on your daily, everyday breath is to do the very things that Jeff spoke of. Learn more, laugh more, love more. Because in the end of the day, you sell houses. You sell houses. You help people buy them, you help people sell them. Some of you do the lending on them, some of you in here do the inspections on them, some of you in here do the title work and escrow on them, but we work on houses. At the end of the day, the question that I'm always posing to myself as I am climbing the ladder of success, I'm just asking this simple question: is my life a success? And only you can answer that. But I do believe that if I was on your side, just as I was with Jeff Lighton, who passed away, by the way, that night. That night, he passed away. And I will never forget the impact. I can still tell you that I'll tell you, for weeks, I felt him near me. But I can always remind myself that as I heard those words, it shaped a question for me, which is my life a success? And if so, if you're taking some notes, which I know some of you are, if it is, how do you know? How do you know your life is a success? Is it that you will get to drive your car one more time? Is it that you just didn't get the nicest car that you ultimately wanted? Is it that you didn't live in the perfect home that you pictured? Is it that you just simply didn't have the nice enough outfit with the Gucci belt or the Louis Vuitton bag or the nice suit? The answer is we all know that's ridiculous. And so just ask yourself, as you're climbing, as you're chasing, as you're going towards everything you ultimately desire, just ask yourself, if I died today, is my life a success? And in the end, you are the only one who will know. But I hope that you know that, because I've always loved the late words of Stephen R. Covey, who said these wonderful words: if you're climbing the ladder of success, just make sure that your ladder is up against the right building. Remember that. Because the fact for every single one of us in this room, you are given the gift of life, and you're given the gift to live it. So live it at its fullest. Go love, go live, right? Go laugh, right? Go learn everything you conceivably can as you move through that. So as we switch gears, I just want to share one last thing with you. How many of you would just like a little more confidence in your life? Anybody? I would. I'm always in for a little more confidence, right? People always say, well, I'll say, I don't have enough. I need more. I do need more. And here's how you get more. People will always ask, well, how do I get more confident? They'll go, I went to this seminar. I'm really confident now. Yeah, but when I left, I wasn't so confident. Or I got home for a day or two and I kind of lost it all. Or they'll go to a wonderful retreat, or they'll go to a religious outing, or they'll go to a church event in their life, or they'll go to a social event, they'll go to a seminar, they'll go to a conference, they'll go to the great one, they'll go to Tony Robbins. And then 2 or 3 days later, after they're back, they seem to be just about with the same level of confidence. In all the years of all the things that I've studied, all the things that I've seen, it doesn't matter what anyone ever attends. It doesn't matter wherever I went to. I began to realize is that why is it that I can go to all these things outside of me and I can still come home and lack some of the belief that's possible, the confidence, the things that I really need to say, okay, I'm going to win the game. I am going to live my dreams. I am going to have the car. I'm going to have the business. I'm going to have the money. What I realized really early on was this. It's just a formula. And here's what's interesting. Whenever I find someone who is very confident, it is just simply asking them a few questions. And the first one is, why do you think you're so confident? And do you know what most people say, by the way? I don't know, I just am. I've just been gifted with that. Well, some of you may have. But some of you also, there's reasons why you are, but you don't even know why. And so look, it's just like the great business person, the person who's running an extraordinary real estate business. You should know why you're successful. And you should also equally know why. Why is it that I am confident? And why is it there are days that I am not? And it is this simple. Number one, Write this down. Because if there is anything this market needs right now, it is your confidence, it is your certainty, it is your belief, it is your absolute presence that everything is okay if you are there. First principle, define exactly what you're supposed to do. You may say, what do you mean by that? Define exactly what you're supposed to do. By the way, when we're done with these three things, you're going to go, that's it? That's it, folks. This is how you get confident. And it will change in a heartbeat. And I will give you just an example or two where you see it has in your own life. Number one, define exactly what you are supposed to do. So let's get clear. Meaning, if you know you're supposed to go to the gym, write it down. If you know you're supposed to go do prospecting, write it down. If you know you were supposed to call someone, write it down. Get absolutely clear on what you're supposed to do on a daily basis, which may seem like such a simple concept, but get absolutely clear. And then number two, execute at the highest level. Now you say, what you just said, write down what I'm supposed to do and actually do it? Yes! It's amazing what happens when that happens. I just want to point that out. How many of you feel great when you know that the morning before, the day before, the evening before, you say, hey, you know what, I'm going to call 5 Sphere. You know exactly what you're supposed to do. And then the day goes by and guess what? You don't do it. How do you feel? Better or worse? Worse, right? Do you feel worse? But if you call the 5, do you feel better or worse? Better. It is that simple. How many times are you setting yourself up to feel horrible? How many times are you setting yourself up that when you know what you're supposed to do but you aren't doing it, I can promise you, you can never move through your life with great deals of confidence. It will never happen. So again, how many of you want more confidence? Everybody. So know exactly what you're supposed to do, execute to the best of your ability on it, and number 3, gratitude. You want to elevate your life internally, emotionally, confidently, your belief, it is in simple terms. Fear and, oh my gosh, fear and gratitude, forgot that for a second. Fear and gratitude cannot coexist at the same time. So the key here is, know what I'm supposed to do, execute to the best of my ability on it, and then weave gratitude throughout it. I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to prospect. I am so grateful to be able to call my sphere and make a difference, to live a life that has some level of stewardship. Do you want to know my greatest fear on the other side for me? Is zero responsibility. You want to talk about a life that is absolutely pathetic? One who has no responsibility. No one to be accountable to. No one to do anything for. Nothing to actually do. And yet, we want to try to emulate and see all the people who are making all these dollars and go, look at them, they do nothing and earn all this money. You want to talk about a life of misery? Have no responsibility, no leadership, no stewardship. Be responsible to no one. That is a life that is horrible. You want to step up your life? You want a more joyful life? Get responsible. Get accountable. Report. Talk to people. Be accountable to others. Know what you're supposed to do. Execute on it. And weave gratitude throughout it. No matter what basketball game you may attend, however exciting it may have ever been, whatever rock concert you may have ever gone to, whatever events you may have ever attended in your life, from Tony Robbins to any other trainer out there, I can promise you that if you do not figure out this one element of success, you will never have the levels of success that you're supposed to have. Just remember, there is absolutely nothing about this business that you cannot learn. And there is nothing about this business that you cannot do. So as we work together, as we move into 2022, as we go through this entire year, just remember that you can do this business. No matter what the market is doing, you can do this business. But if you aren't operating in refinement of your disciplines to the activities you know you're supposed to do, and you aren't putting gratitude throughout it, if you aren't bringing to every single meeting an essence, a presence of openness, joy, light, but if every time you walk into a meeting, or every time you walk into an appointment, or every time you're making calls, you're more so like, I hate doing this. I hate doing this. Hello, hi, I'm calling about the home for sale. Okay, dun, 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 ring, ring, dun, dun, dun. Or walking from each house, this is miserable. I hate it out here. It's so hot. Can't believe I'm doing this. Maybe I should get another job. Knock, knock, knock. Oh, hi! Like, guys, you're not going to fool anybody. So strive to go live a life that is based on the right focus of gratitude, love, light, conversations that people don't even want to have in business. And yet the reality is what moves people into business. It is their love. It's how they feel. They choose you because of the comfort that they feel, because of when you show up, they know life is going to be better. And that's true leadership at its highest level. So as we wrap up, just remember, again, nothing you can't learn, nothing that you can't do. Look, last year, we paid out nearly $90 million in commissions to this group and, of course, the group of agents at Everest, which is awesome. Congratulations. Okay? So many of you had your personal best, the most money that you've ever earned. You may be even asking yourself, can I do this again? Can I repeat what I did before? Can I really figure it out this time? And if you didn't figure it out last year, holy cow, wait, the market has shifted, the market has changed. Is it going to be different? Can I do it? The answer is you can. But if you choose not to work, if you choose not to focus on the right things, if you choose to live in the shape of your fear and the things you're scared of, then the reality, it's going to be really rough. It's going to be a rough year. And I've said this for years. Just ask yourself, last year, how many of you had your best year ever last year? Just simple terms. Ask yourself, did you get better? Or did the market get better? Because the fact is that if it was just the market, then this is the year that you need to step forward and work your tail off to becoming more. In its most simple terms, people ask me, like, what drives you? What's the purpose of your life? It is this simple. Help every single individual I meet in my life be better off because I showed up. Meaning they become better. They become their very best. So if you gave your very best this year, 2022, what could happen? And what if you got so clear on your activity? You got so clear and you executed at such a high level. And what if you weaved your entire life and dripped it with gratitude? And you moved through your life with light, joy, and love. How much more business could you do? How many more people would be attracted to who you are? How much more could be achieved because of what you've done and who you've become? I don't know, but I know this, that it would be pretty extraordinary. So as always, just know how much I love being with you. And how many of you were at last summit? Okay, so I cried enough for like 10 years right there. But I'm always touched by the amount of love that I always feel in this room. And I'm always touched by the amount of care and concern that people have for one another. And one of the things that I have deeply appreciated, the essence of Everest, is the open platform in which people share and help. But the one thing they cannot do for you is the work that is necessary in speaking, communicating, and talking with people. And just remember, just because you earned $100,000 this year, or maybe it was $200,000, or maybe for a Jess it was $700,000, there's still another platform. There's another layer. There's another level to go to. Because it's not even about the money in the end. The money will always be the byproduct of the ultimate message of Everest. Who do you choose to become in the process? So who do you choose to become? Who are you? What type of leader are you? Who must you become to earn the amount of money that you want to earn? Because what we know is, I already know that Jessica, as an example who spoke, she is the exact person she needs to be to earn 700 grand. But what I know about her is that she has to become someone different, better, refined, better at every angle of her business to say, now I'm going to earn 1 million, 1.5, 2 million, because you have to become more. That's the essence and the beauty of this business, is that in order to earn more money, you have to become more valuable to the market, meaning you have to become more. So if you're asking yourself why you don't have the money you should, why you don't have the money you actually, quote, desire, the better question might be, is who have I been to earn what I earn? And who must I become to earn what I want to earn? That question changed the whole course of my life. Because what I recognized is that the guy who had created a little real estate company with a few agents in it is not the same guy who today is the CEO over multiple million-dollar enterprises. The reason is because I had to become more. And you want to know what freaked me out the most in my growth as I continue to strive to grow? Was I started reading things that they would say, well, one CEO can take you to this level, but that CEO isn't the next CEO who can take you to the next level. And then that CEO, well, they're usually the one who's part of the growth, but they're not part of the steadying of the course of a company. And I started looking and reading all these things about different segments of different CEOs. Because there's CEOs who are great at startups. There's CEOs who are great at growth. There's CEOs who are great at stabilization. But very few of them are good at all of them. So every one of us in this room, including myself, if we're going to take our lives to a different level, we have to become more than we are today. And that includes me. So I hope that 2022 will be a day that you, or a year that you figure out that the level of income that you earn is in direct correspondence to the leader and the individual that you are. And as hard as sometimes that is to hear, for some of you who may not be earning enough, it is a truth. So if you want to earn more, become more. And if you want to go to a whole other level, then you have to become more at a whole other level. That's how we do it. That's the beauty of real estate. That's the beauty of leadership. So with that, guys, have an extraordinary rest of the week. Have a great rest of the month, and let's rock and roll.